If there's one question I get asked more than anything online, it's,
who let you in here?
But the second is, how is it that Larissa, Mohammed, Jay, or some other cast member is still in the US? In this first of a series of episodes, I'd like to look at each of these cast members' cases in turn. Introducing 90 Day Fiancé, how are they still here? In celebration of the beginning of Season 5 of Happily Ever After, I'd like this episode to explore the case of one of the most asked about cast members, Larissa. We were originally introduced to Larissa back in Season 6 of the main series. Her relationship with her fiancé Colt was rocky, to say the least, but it did spawn some of the most enduring memes in the 90 Day fandom.
It's my flowers! Biggie. Who is against the queen will die!
Despite their troubles, they did get married at the end of the season. However, we discovered during the tell-all for Season 6 that Larissa was arrested on a domestic violence call initiated by Colt. After the tell-all, we learned through social media, and later had confirmed on subsequent shows, that she was arrested 2 additional times on domestic violence allegations. And we learned on the first Happily Ever episode for Season 5 that following the 3rd incident, Colt separated from Larissa and they were eventually divorced.
Ooh, good boy.
We also learned that Colt has withdrawn his affidavit of support for Larissa. In order to fully understand Larissa's current status, we need to answer a couple of questions. The first is whether or not Colt filed for adjustment of status following their wedding. Recall that the K-1 visa rules require a foreign beneficiary to marry their American citizen petitioner within 90 days of their arrival, and then file for adjustment of status to become a conditional permanent resident. Based on statements made in the show, it appears that Colt either never filed for adjustment of status or withdrew his application subsequent to the filing. Whichever it was, their divorce means that Larissa no longer has a legal basis to become a permanent resident. The second question we must answer is, what has Larissa actually been convicted of? Again, the show indicates she pled down to a lesser domestic violence charge. We can conclude this based on her performing community service at the beginning of the episode. Looking at the answers to these 2 questions, it's clear that Larissa's status in the US is not good. Her biggest problem is her conviction on a domestic violence charge. US immigration law defines the types of aliens who are deportable. Within these categories are aliens who have been convicted of crimes of domestic violence. Larissa, even with a pled down charge, falls squarely into this category. This means she is subject to removal and will have removal proceedings brought against her. Deportation from the United States is not an automatic process. There are a number of steps that have to be taken in order to provide an alien with a fair chance to have their case heard. It's important to note that these protections are not as robust as those provided to an American citizen, but do exist to provide some sort of a judicial process to protect affected aliens from zealousness by the US government. Based on statements we heard in the first episode of Season 5 of Happily Ever After, we know that Larissa is in some stage of this process and is looking for a way to stay in the US. Whether or not it will be possible for her to legally stay is a difficult question to answer. If she were to find somebody else to marry and file a petition for her, that could possibly open up waivers to her ineligibility or open up some kind of administrative avenue to delay her removal proceedings. However, that level of analysis goes beyond the scope of what I want this particular video to cover. Now, if any of you are competent immigration attorneys, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments to this video. So there you have it. Larissa is still here because her case is still pending and she doesn't have a final order of removal. How much longer she can legally stay here and ride the TLC gravy train is anybody's guess. Stay tuned for future episodes in this series where we will continue to answer the question, how are they still here? Until then, Agency out.